Welcome to episode 2 of Dialing the Gate. Thank you so much. Dial the Gate. Man, one of these days I will get my show name correct. Hello, everyone. My name is David Reed. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a more abbreviated episode of the show because Tony has only so much time to be with us. Normally, the shows are going to be running around 90 minutes, but in this case, Tony is doing me a favor because Christopher Judge had to back out for work reasons. So let me just get right to this, and I appreciate your patience here. So for the way that this is going to go, we're going to have a guest Q&A. Tony and I are going to be talking for about 30 to 45 minutes around there. Submit your questions. I believe Summer and Ian, if I'm not mistaken, are running today, the show today. So I appreciate you guys. We've also got Keith and Tracy in there as well. They are our new moderators. So thank you guys so much for coming aboard. We're going to try and keep them all organized, and then I'm going to ask those questions at the end of my line of questions to Master Break Tech himself, Tony Amendola, and we're just going to go from there. So I appreciate you hanging on while I discover this process for myself. Okay, so with that out of the way, before we get started, if you like Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click the like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm. It will definitely help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend, and if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my text notifications of any last-minute guest changes. This is key if you plan on watching live, and clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. The clips are designed for people who don't have time to sit through the whole show, unlike some of us who are sitting in cars forever and can, listen to live streams and everything else. But without further ado, Mr. Tony Amendola, Master Braytac himself. Sir, I am not worthy. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. How are things going out in LA? Fires. I mean, we've got pestilence. It's been an interesting year, don't you think? My gosh.
Yeah. I heard the weather report today. There's a chance of frogs. So.
Yep. Oh, man, God.
It's 2020, huh?
Right.
2020, boy.
What can it throw at us that we haven't seen before? So.
Oh, don't say that now.
No, that's certainly true.
I thought that in April.
Yeah. And now we're eating our words, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I have been watching you on television, not with the intent of following you specifically, although you are an amazing talent. You just keep on popping up. Terminator, Once Upon a Time. Of course, Stargate, obviously. Do you consider yourself blessed?
Well, if you're a working actor, you're blessed. We belong to a profession where, on any given week, over 90% of us are unemployed, more, 94%. So the notion of being able to work is exactly that. It's a blessing. I remember when I finished school, I went to school in Philadelphia, and at the end, because you're in school, you're training. It's sort of the equivalent, although not as practical, as medical school or law school in terms of hours, in terms of intensity when you're in a training program. And I remember I was approaching the end of it, and I wrote a little note said, "Professional acting work, East Coast," and that was sort of like an affirmation. Because I had nothing in front of me, and it sort of worked out. I mean, it ended up being mainly on the West Coast, but I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. And it's been a long, busy and worrying and rewarding, and every sort of mental state you can imagine. That's sort of an actor's life. But I have been blessed.
Did you expect to find yourself where you are at this point in your life? Or is this, like Don S. Davis always said, this is not where I wanted to be. It's wonderful, but it's not what I had in mind.
Yeah, I probably didn't have much in mind. No, it's a complete surprise. I wasn't, there's a term, a lifer for an actor. They're the people that knew at 8 and they started singing and dancing and just, they just knew that's what they were going to do. I didn't get involved until college. And so consequently, it's taken me all over the world. It's allowed me to study probably the most fascinating thing in the world, which is human behavior. And it's just provided me with a wonderful carte blanche to a kind of experience that I would never have. And it's funny. It's sort of what an actor, some people describe the primary question of an actor is what is it like to be you? And from there, actors really don't want to be themselves. We have to use ourselves, our bodies, our voices, our emotions, all of those things. But we want to adapt. We want to change. And sometimes, that's where the aspect of play comes in. I mean, to give you an example, I remember I had done several films, but the first big studio film I did was The Legend of Zorro. And I just remember pinching myself walking to set in these 19th century sort of Spanish nobleman clothes and getting on a horse to ride in to the scene where there were 500 extras.
Oh my gosh.
Screaming at the top. And you watch the opening scene of Legend of Zorro, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, it's just it's sort of like, it's the equivalent of, well, this is not X-rated, so I guess I can say it.
Yeah.
The first time you make love and you pinch yourself because the other person is so beautiful, and you wake up
fortunate.
And remember, yes, you just pinch yourself. You think, oh my God, and so that was what, that was where acting took me. Now, to be fair, and we must be fair, lest there be young people out there who think, oh, just climb that stairwell and and I can have that experience. It's a grind. They say, there's an old saying, they pay us for worrying and waiting. The acting is free, so.
I can definitely attest to that. Going and visiting you guys on set for years and years. I never crossed paths with you on set, but it's waiting. It's a lot of waiting, and you have to know your lines and be on your marks, and there's nothing to stop you from not knowing your lines, but you're going to make 150 people miserable if you don't.
Right, and lest we be clear, that's the good waiting. The waiting you're describing is the waiting when you have a job. You have a job and you're on set. You're working. There's craft services, or there used to be before the pandemic. There are, there's a million things. They're long hours, but you're employed. I'm talking about the waiting in between jobs. I'm talking about,
I understand now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, for instance, one of the things about an actor is you have to look in the mirror very hard. And I was fortunate enough that when I finished school, I managed to get theater work. And it was a type of theater work that was seasonal work. In other words, I was working from September until the end of May, and then I do something else in the summer, which hardly exists now. It's very, very rare. But it gave me that. I say that because actors make sense at different ages. I was never a young leading man. That wasn't, so the notion of me coming down to LA and pursuing my, acting as a younger, say in my 20s, I would have worked, but it wouldn't have been very rewarding. So instead of that, and this was completely, by accident, it wasn't a choice, I ended up doing 15 years of rep work, and when you do that, you make a living. Certainly not a lot of money, but you pay your bills, you have a regular life, you have a car.
Can you explain rep work for me?
Well, rep work is when you're doing a season of plays. You're not hired for just one thing. For instance, if they were doing a play about Braytac, then they would think, oh, Tony is a good Braytac. But the very next play, they'll be doing a different kind of play, and they'll think, well, he's not quite right. In rep, the whole notion is to expand the actor. So you get to play the roles you're right for, and the roles you have no reason to be playing, but it makes for wonderful growth. And how the sum becomes greater than its parts is because you're working with the same group of people. So in one season, for instance, I could play Iago in Othello. I could play, a Clifford Odets urban thing, but I'll play the gentleman caller in the Glass Menagerie. Now, for the people who know Tennessee Williams, the Glass Menagerie, I am not your typical casting for that. But that's where the challenge is. And, you get a finicky artistic director who's interested in presenting a slate of plays to an audience, but is also interested in the growth of the company. And you get opportunities like that. And that's unique. That's really unique. Whereas in television and film, it's a different schedule. I mean, you are so busy in the theater you can be. And if you're lucky, you're doing big films, you're very busy in film and television. But in between, they asked Robert Duvall what the key to survival in Los Angeles was. And he looked at them and said, hobbies, and more hobbies. The reason for that is you'll drive yourself crazy. That, neurosis for the actor comes in not being able to work, to not be able to get what's inside of them out. They're in a poker game that's all in a kind of way. You know what I mean? And there are very few parents, if any, who would say, "Oh, I want my son to grow up and become an actor," because they want to spare you.
Yeah, they're going to be spending a great deal of time unhappy.
Yeah, you can be, and so getting back to your original question, do I consider myself blessed? Without a question, I consider myself blessed, and that was from the get-go. I, with the exception of Los Angeles, I never faced prolonged employment in Los Angeles. I have. Months on months. But previous to that, it was pretty unique.
Have you worked since COVID has started? Have you had a chance to be on set, or are you still doing everything over Zoom? Like you were talking before during the GateCon interview that you were prepping for a play through Zoom.
Right, everything's through Zoom. The only thing I've done is I've done in studio some VO. I've done voiceover work. I have not shot anything yet. I have all the auditions are on. They just started actually opening up the whole notion where you can film. Just a couple of 6 weeks ago, maybe, and it takes a while to grind up. But auditions are coming back now. It is weird though to audition on Zoom. It's not quite the same.
Well, we're not out of the woods yet. So everyone's kind of figuring this thing out as we go forward. So
absolutely, yeah. No one knows, and everything is changing because also, the big, what happens if all the movie theaters go away, or if a significant number of them go away, as we know is a possibility right now. No one knows. Broadway just yesterday pushed their opening date to the end of May, beginning of June, 2021. Wow, that's the earliest anything will be on Broadway. Wow. So, and you ask yourself, so I've been doing, oddly, David, I've been very busy. Sometimes I wonder, well, how am I, how can I be busy? There's nothing going on, but there are projects, people have, desires and pet projects that I want to work on. I'm working on like 3 or 4 different Zoom things. One is a sort of an examination of some scenes in King Lear. Another one is The Caretaker, Pinter's The Caretaker. Another is, it sort of all those types of things. But they're all labors of love, with the exception of the VO work. That's been, thank God. And
got to pay the bills somehow.
Yeah, you have to. And as you say, we're not out of the woods. No one quite knows. I mean, you have to trust. And, you realize, and you probably have read this, some great things have come out of, some great work has been written or created during pandemics. I mean, some of Shakespeare's greatest plays. That's Lear, Timon of Athens, Coriolanus, all written. I think Antony and Cleopatra, written during time of plague. So
I think that there's no doubt that that we've had. There's definitely been some horrible things to happen through this, but I mean, this year and perhaps please God, no, the years that follow it, will be studied for the rest of our lives. And there's going to be some good as well. You know, I mean, look at the stories of 9/11.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, for instance, you know, I keep thinking we're going into flu season, which is always a big worry. What are they calling it? The twin pandemic now?
Yeah.
Twindemics. And it's a real worry. You know, get your flu shot. I'm getting mine on Monday. But supposedly, the flu numbers in the southern hemisphere, which is winter, have been very low this year, from what I understand. Because guess what? The same precautions we take for COVID are identical to the precautions you take for flu. So I'm hoping that we won't have to, we won't get a double whammy. But yeah, there's so many, you know, it's sort of afford you a time to really stop, because it's such a pace. There's such a pace with social media and the bombardment of information, to all of a sudden have a lull without, of course, ideally without the deaths and the pain and the suffering. But to have that is a real eye opener, and sort of, what does it mean? Who are we at this point? And, you know, so there's some big things coming up. You know, it's, what do they say? May you live in interesting times.
It's the Chinese proverb, for sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly.
I want to switch gears with you here. The last time I saw you in person, we were with Carmen, Argenziano. A word about Carmen.
Well, you know, it's funny. We all work together in Stargate, and we all know each other. But when you're in Vancouver and you're working very long hours, and you have a family, as you know, the other cast members did, there's not really a lot of time to socialize, which is why we enjoy going to conventions, because there's nothing but time to socialize.
And you see each other as well as the fans.
Absolutely. But see, if you're out of town, because of course I live in Los Angeles, as Carmen did, and you're working in Vancouver, now, you know, who do you go eat dinner with? Who do you go? And so, you know, Carmen and I had, you know, wonderful times together, and, you know, great laughs. He's a very, he was a very sort of humble guy, almost to the point where you're thinking, come on, you've been doing this 50 years. Will you stop? Will you stop? You know, give yourself, you know, but he was just unique. And we would always laugh, because there were a couple of incidents at conventions where people would come up and say to Carmen, you know, you're my favorite character in Stargate, and I love your relationship with Amanda, and I just can't tell you how great it is. And then they put my picture in front of it.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I kid you not.
Oh my gosh!
You know,
maybe they left their glasses back in their hotel rooms.
Well, you know, it was obviously, I didn't have my cap on. It was one of those other pictures. You know, there were several where, for instance, there was this, you know, the fire, the scene when, you know, the alternate reality when Tilk is a fireman and rescues me, and I'm in the hospital.
Yeah, changeling. That's true.
Yeah, I changeling, right? You know, I don't have my thing, so, but they do the same to me. Listen, not only would they do that to me, I'll tell you, it's so funny. I can't tell you the number. Not tons, but several times people have come up to me, and again, they love my work, and then they tell me, and please, I have something here I want you to sign from Amadeus. Because in a certain light, in certain
Marie Abraham,
people,
well, yeah, I can see that. But Carmen, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. No. So, you know, when they do that, before I used to disappoint them and say, well, you know, thank you so much, but I'm not, you know. Now, I just listen and I sign. I say, you know, I sign my name. I don't sign F. Murray's name, but I sign my name and I give it to them. They'll catch up, you know?
Right. The IMDb people, you know, will eventually say, look it up.
Yeah. You know, and one other thing, David, it's so funny. For the longest time, people always would say, you know, you look like someone, when they always would say, you should play Amadeus Salieri. You should be in Amadeus and play Salieri. And I heard that for 30 years. And finally, just maybe 18 months ago, I got a chance to do it. So it was
really,
yeah. Oh yeah, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience down in San Diego. I did it, and it was. Well, I figure it's now or never. You know,
that's
generally
true too.
It's played by a younger guy generally, and then But here's what was so cool. The director, he had seen some other work I'd done. He said, I really want you to do it now. You're a little older. He tell you why. He says, generally, young actors do it because they think, and then they put because he's an old man. It's a flashback. And he sees all these old actors, playing. And he says, he says, we don't have the wig. We just, my hair was longer. And you're of an age. You age up a little bit, 10 years, 5 years. And we'll put the dark wig on you. And because guess what? I can still move. I'm fine. I can give the illusion of youth. So anyway, that was on my bucket list, and I got a chance to do it, and I was really grateful. Yeah.
Speaking of bucket lists, Man of La Mancha.
Oh God.
Don Quixote.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Brad. And I'm hoping that you can pick up the story. Brad Wright and I were talking, and there was a scheduling conflict. And this is just to show the goodness of that production and how they were flexible with the actors. Can you take it from there?
I will, except I'm going to correct you. It wasn't Man of La Mancha. It was Cyrano.
Cyrano.
It was Cyrano de Bergerac. Another bucket list one. And I was doing it. And before I took the job, I called and said, hey, I got this job coming up. I really want to do it. I just, checking, see if you're clear. And, am I clear for, a couple of months, 8 weeks? And they said, oh, yeah, you're absolutely clear. So this is, a month before. And on the day I'm literally driving to the first day of rehearsal. And I get a phone call saying, oh, they have an episode of Stargate for you. And I said, what? They told me that, so I said, okay. So before I said no, because I was committed now to this Cyrano, and, people, you sort of have to honor your word. I called Brad and said, hey, is there any chance, and luckily, as you say, the production was such, and when I told him what it was too, every character guy's got a Cyrano in him. It's not the young, handsome, the Brad Pitts who walk around. I mean, Cyrano is the character man's Hamlet. It's the character man's adventure, And so he said, oh, let me get back to you. And sure enough, they changed everything and worked it around. So I did both. So I flew up. I did, I think I did 3 days, and then flew back and finished the week of the Cyrano and then flew up. Yeah. The other thing I'll never forget, I had to be up really early on Monday morning. And of course we performed Sunday night, and the only flight I could get in was into Seattle. And how do I get from Seattle? And so they sent a driver because they knew I had to get up at 5 and they sent a driver. No, I have nothing but admiration and appreciation for Brad. And, Brad was very, very kind to me. He also said something to me that was, really sort of touched me. He, in Threshold, the episode Threshold, which he wrote, I did it, and it was our backstory. It's a very important story for Chris and myself. It's sort of my favorite episode because of that reason, our connection. And then I was up doing another episode later on in that season, and now they had edited and were just doing the final thing. And he came up to me, he says, I want you to know, I did not cut a single thing of yours in Threshold. And
in editing,
in editing, he said, I kept every single moment. And I thought, wow, thank you. And it was, it's sort of, being hired is in essence saying job well done. So, actors, you can't expect in the craziness of our schedule and the craziness of people to be overly appreciative all the time.
Absolutely.
But the occasional word like that always, and it made me feel a part of the show, and made really a deep part of the show. And so it's very kind of it.
I'm trying to think, when was the last time that, you filmed as Braytek? I mean, 13, 14 years at this point, and we're still talking, and there's still things to talk about,
Absolutely.
Something worked.
Not only that, there's still some things to do.
Ain't that the truth? I completely agree. Christopher with the Jaffa story, absolutely. Yeah. I want to take a step back. I want to go back a little bit and kind of get the foundation of you as a human being. Where were you raised? What did your family do?
I was raised in New Haven, Connecticut. Very blue collar. Both my mom and dad worked. My mom worked in a sewing factory, like essentially a sweatshop, really. And my dad was a construction worker, but pre-union. Unions. This would have been, in the 50s, and then was lucky enough to get a job in the post office late. He was probably in his 40s when he got that, and that sort of changed everything. And I had two older brothers, and it was we all worked. We all had after school jobs, and this is sort of a template for a time past. This would not work today, but it's what it was. We all worked, and me and my brothers, and we contributed that money to the household. That wasn't like, oh, well, we're working so you can teach, so we can be taught responsibility. No,
the family pulled together.
Yeah. And oddly, I didn't realize until much later, because when I say I was working, I'm telling you, I was selling newspapers at 7 and 8. Again, a different time. That was daycare, because my brothers had roots too, so they can keep an eye on me. And because my dad worked nights and my mom worked during the day, there was no one at home to keep an eye on us. So we did that, and that's sort of what it was. I almost some of the big things. I almost went to a tech school, high school, but then I decided I didn't. And very late in my high school, I thought, there's any of a number of trades that I could go into. And it was only late that I had a teacher who said, maybe you should just do a year or two of college just for yourself. I think, it was a teacher who, I had tons of teachers who were very nice. I was a cut up. I was not a good student. I was not a bad student. I just, in high school, I was working 4 to 12. You know what I mean? There was, so she convinced me that she insisted on having my opinion on things. And boy, did she regret that, because then I never shut up. No. And because of that, I went to college. And it was in college that I literally, it's the old, stumbled into an audition for a play. And that's where it sort of began. But initially it was social. It was a place to be. You're 19, 18, 20. What do you do with yourself? What do you do with your passions?
Right.
Once you get past the mask of what you're presenting to society. And because of that, it was social. It was, meeting people, meeting women, but I was lucky because of growing up in New Haven. There were 2 of the most respected regional theaters in New Haven, and they were literally less than a 15-minute walk from where I grew up, and I would walk there. So when I was in college on a Saturday night, I'd go and put down my student ID and pay $10 for whatever they were showing. And it took me to a different world. That world was sometimes Irish, sometimes it was American, sometimes it was a Russian, but I got to see exquisite actors. For instance, I saw Meryl Streep, Sigourney Weaver when they were students. They were students. That's who that's John Cazale, John Lithgow, Al Pacino. This is who was performing there. And so consequently, Christopher Walken, I saw him doing a number of things before he was Christopher Walken. And so I feel blessed for that, because I didn't have to get rid of tons of bad habits that can sometimes happen when you start too early. It was always, my exposure was always, oddly, really some of the top talent in the country. And so, wow. And only after that I realized, I need to train more. And so I ended up going to school in Philadelphia. That's where I got my training. And now what do? I taught. when I came out of school, I was going to move to New York, but have no money. So I taught briefly academically, acting, directing, those types of things. And I was offered a job, a full-time job, to go into academia. But I did not feel, I didn't feel it was good for the students. For me, I didn't have any professional experience. How can I go from being a student one year to being an instructor? I wasn't tried and tested what I knew. And so I said no, and I was lucky. And because of that, I moved to New York, and then I started working. I got hired out of town, got hired in Oregon, for people that know the Shakespeare Festival there, where I spent a couple of seasons and directed, and then did my stint of theater for the first 14 or so years.
Wow.
That was a long answer, David. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. What was do you recall the play in high school that first got you
No,
hooked?
it was in college.
Oh, in college. Excuse me.
Yeah, it was not in high school.
It was not in high school.
No, in high school I was working full time. I played basketball for a while. I did play basketball,
okay.
and that was oddly, I think that was my movement. That's where I learned how to move. When you think about basketball, it's a very sort of jazz-like, dance-like, modern dancey sort of thing. And so that served me very well as an actor. It was the first play I ever stepped foot on stage was The Tempest. Shakespeare's The Tempest. And you want to know my first line I ever said on stage?
Please.
All is lost to prayers, all is lost. Now, I think of that line all the time.
I bet you know the DNA of what that line means too. So
yeah.
Absolutely. Did you ever get a chance to tell this individual in your high school, thank you? You changed.
College.
So it was a college advisor that suggested the.
Oh! I'm sorry. You're talking about No, it was an English teacher.
Did you ever get a chance to say thank you?
I never did, because guess what? She eloped with another English teacher. Two of them left.
You're kidding.
Their spouses. No, I kid you not. There was a big scandal. They left their spouses, and so I don't know where she ended. But one time I Googled her, but I could not find her because I was having one of those nostalgic moments. So.
Right. Absolutely.
She may have changed their name.
Yeah. Those kinds of things happen all the time. Bloodlines. So you had just done The Mask of Zorro at this point. This is 1997. You had indicated before that you had always wanted to go to Vancouver. Tell us about being cast as Master Braytek.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to Vancouver because my wife and I had gone through. We took our first vacation together in 1983 and went to Banff Jasper. Canadian Rockies, flew into Vancouver, took the train across. So we fell in love with Vancouver because it was summer. So it was summer, and it's as glorious a place as you can imagine in summer. So I was always jealous. My friends were working in Vancouver. I never got the opportunity. So I did Mask of Zorro. I was only home a week or so. Agent called, audition, Stargate. I had seen the movie and enjoyed the movie. This 133-year-old blank shoots up in Vancouver, and it was the 4th of July weekend. So I really, what do you do on the 4th of July weekend? After you celebrate, I had time, so I really worked on the script. And I was really prepared for the audition. And I really wanted to go to Vancouver. And sure enough, it happened. And one of the things I think made it happen, there's a special time for an actor after they finish a big film where they're sort of hot because the film hasn't come out and hasn't been a success or a flop yet, but there's a possibility that you could get this guy and he's just gonna. So I think it makes those little things make a difference. I think that having just come off the film, I also did an audition I was very pleased with. So that's sort of how it all came together. And now you probably want to hear the story about when I arrived and then realized I'm worried about the makeup.
Jan Newman, right?
Jan Newman. I'm sorry, probably some of the people have heard the story. I'm sorry, but
no, please.
So I arrive and I think, my wife, if I'm working in Oklahoma or if I'm working in some other places, say, that are not as desirable to visit, she will not come. But boy, Vancouver, New Orleans, those types of Mexico, she'll come. So she was so excited to come back. But now I realize, oh my God, she's going to be here. We want to enjoy the town as well as do this work. And I'm playing 133-year-old guy. What do we? It's going to be a makeup chair, 4:30 in the morning. I'm going to be fried. And so I get there, I do my wardrobe fitting, which is great. I'm going to leave, and the second AD say, "Hey, makeup key, Jan wants to see you." And I'm thinking, here it comes. Can we shave your head? Can we, something, and I go in, and she just looks at me. So did it. She said, "Oh, you're perfect as you are." And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, 133, I'm perfect as I am. But
now you're insulted.
now I'm insulted. But guess what? I have never, with Braytech at least, I have never met a fan who says, "Oh, you've gotten old." You see, you can't say that about Braytech. You started at 133. I mean, the guy's always going to look good. He's always going to be,
Someone in chat, I was peeking in. Someone said, "There's no way he's 69." So they're like, "Nah, that's not possible. He looks younger than that." So there you go.
I feel younger than that. When you get to be 69, you realize you're
Absolutely.
you're your naughtiest 15 always. It's always there. You may not act on it. But.
So you spent a lot of time on location for that episode, and you really got to experience the outdoors. But tell me about the weight of that initial costume. First season, they had not really tweaked the costumes yet as they did as the story went on.
No, it was very heavy. But first let me say, working outdoors, everyone, I got such a welcome from people when I went back. From the crew and everything, they just could not have been nicer. And then I always realized the other shoe would fall because they realized if Braytech was back, we were going to a gravel pit. There was going to be some, so they were going to have to.
There were a few pits in Vancouver that did just that.
God. Yeah, I spent so much time there. But the wardrobe, as an actor, what I hate is if you have very uncomfortable things that add nothing to the depiction of the character. There's nothing, there's someone else's idea of something. You have no connection to them. You just have to wear a funny hat that goes. It has to go to the left. It has nothing to do with the character. It's because the other one is going to the right. So you're trying to juggle it. But I never resented the clothes for Braytech, which were very heavy. There was chainmail. There were plastic pieces, there were robes, there were capes. I mean, it was probably, I'd say 50, 60 pounds.
It's like this guy right here next to me.
Oh my God. And then you're talking about that guy,
with the helmet.
The pneumatic head. Oh yeah.
Right.
But it looks so good. And one thing about carrying a lot of weight all day is that when you take it off at the end of the day, you feel like for the people that have played basketball or wore ankle weights, it's that light feeling you feel. So I always enjoyed it. Enjoy is not the right word. I was always very tolerant of it. Although sometimes, and this is Jan, they would, with the heat in that first episode, man, it was hot.
Yeah.
Quite hot with they'd lift my little cap and literally water would pour out.
Yeah. Because it all goes out at the top of your head.
Oh, yeah. It's 30% of your heat, right? Believe me, I know. So Jan, till this day, she'd have a little thing with ice and she'd have face cloths in it with sea breeze. And she'd put them on the back of your neck and on your wrists and everything. But there was a funny thing that happened once that I'll never forget. They put your makeup on and they have to put sunscreen. Again, you're out in the sun. And I have my little
tattoo.
Tattoo.
Yep.
I have my little golden guy. And I guess sometimes time went by and they didn't do it. And when they took it off, I sort of had a tan.
You're kidding.
Yeah, very, very faint. She said, "Oh, well, Yeah, I guess we'll be more careful with the sunscreen tomorrow. But I said, oh, hey, we know what the positioning is now. We don't have
You
to
can
worry
line it
about
right
it.
back up. Forget the
Yeah.
Polaroids.
Well, it's so funny, and there's always the joke. People are fascinated, when you go to a con, they're saying, how did they attach that? And particularly if it's a young boy or girl, I'll look at them very seriously and say, oh, my tattoo? Said they use the nail gun. And I can always see them that their eyes it's good like that.
You're
Uh,
bad, Tony.
I am bad, but I love that. But that's the great thing with yeah, and every so often, because we've been around so long, the parrot will say, "Yeah, he told me that joke too."
Do you know the in canon story of how it's done?
No, what's that?
So a certain Jaffa or gold knife is used to cut the
Oh
flesh,
yes,
and then pure molten gold is poured in.
pure
So
molten gold.
it's like it's pretty
If you're lucky,
intense,
it's gold. Right? If you're lucky, it's gold. If
right?
if you're a peon, it's not.
Right. It's some
Yeah,
kind of silver or something.
silver.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell me about your first. You told this story on dialing home. I'd like to hear the story again on Dial the Gate. Your first encounter with Rick on set. You didn't exactly
Uh,
know who he was, studying to be working with Chris.
well, yeah, it's not. I mean, I knew he was the star of the show, and I certainly knew, MacGyver and those things. But the odd thing about uh, one of the things about spending 15 years in the theater, and some of it pre VCR, let alone DVR, but pre VCR, is that there are a whole, like the 80s are a blank to me in terms of television, unless they were on Monday nights. If they were on Monday nights, Cagney and Lacey, those types of things, because that was our night off.
Okay.
My wife and I, and we love Cagney and Lacey, by the way. So, Rick, I knew he was, a star,
Right.
but I had a job to do. And my job, when I read, after I was hired and I was going to the paradise that is Vancouver, my job was, okay, Tony, get to work. Enough. You're okay. What is the story again? Oh, okay, story again. So there's this Tilk. That's who I'm literally, when they find out, I'm at his house. I know he's coming back because his home has been destroyed. I'm literally holding vigil there. So I know. So obviously this is an important, at my own jeopardy.
Right. Your student.
Yeah, my student. So I know it's all based on him, and Michael Shanks in him and Tapping, Arena, they're all nice people, I'm certain, but the only one I care about is this guy, Christopher Judge. And so as soon as after I meet Jan and do it the very next day when I'm going, I see a picture of Chris when I'm in the fitting and the makeup. I say, oh my God, he's an interesting guy. Boy, he's a big, strong guy. But now I got to meet him. I got to look him in the eye, And so they let me out, and I'm just arrived. They're in between takes. Mario Azzopardi is directed that episode. Michael, the Greenberg is over there too at the time, and and I walk, and they're having a confab about something, and I walk, and I'll never forget. So I get out of a van. Richard is here, and then Chris, Amanda, and Michael are behind him, and I'm just walking. As a break, and the AD comes to me, and I'm walking now looking for Chris, and Richard's ready to receive me. Now Richard is not going to remember any of this,
No.
but Richard's ready to receive me, to receive my thanks for being on his show, which I did give him eventually, obviously, but I walked sort of right behind his hand, almost extended, and I just went right by. Right up to Chris and said, "Hi, Chris. I'm Tony. I guess we're a team, And I remember, I don't know what Rick did behind me, but I remember the other guys sort of like, because I wasn't trying to be rude or anything like that. It was just like a simple focus. You generally don't walk by the number one.
No. You pay respect.
You pay respect. And after I met Chris, and again, it's that sometimes people think actors have long discussions, and sometimes we do about certain things, but the most important thing is to be able to look a person in the eye and think, I could. It's almost like you have a scale. You look a person in the eye and you think of what your notion of who that person should be, that character, and you realize, oh my God, he or she is a 3 of my idea. I'm going to have to act 7 of that. 7 of that scale of 10. When I looked at Chris, I thought, well, we're at a 10. Matter of fact, probably the less acting I do, the better, because just felt a good connection. And then I went over and said hi to Michael and Richard. He was he was Rick, which is his great. It's what made the show so successful. His irreverence, the reluctant hero, if you will. And I remember we had some intense things that first day. We had some just brief, but flipping and everything like that. And that's Rick will do it, and it's like, he's cranky and everything like that. And I remember, my first day, I just want to do it right. Then you got to realize Rick has been on set for 25 years. He's had an amazing career. I mean, an extraordinary career from all. And so consequently, it's his passion is his job. And you always have to negotiate that. Now, there are special times, and you can almost see him sometimes it's generally when they give him a new weapon. Gets the pirate. He's like a kid again. You can see the kid. A couple of times I thought, man, he's a little cranky. I mean, can't we just have a better time, or can't we? And I realized, oh, thank God I didn't make a crack or something, because and I realized, and only, of course, even when I did the second episode, Serpent's Lair, I think was my second episode.
You came in 201. Yep.
Right, that was my second episode, and only when I did that I realized, oh, no, this is gold.
Well, what they picked up on in Bloodlines, the little threads of chatter between you and Rick went full bore in that second episode. It's like completely. They were playing that up.
Oh, completely. And it was great, because again, Rick it's the reluctant hero. I've always said this about Rick. The thing I admire is that he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out and act for you. Right? He's not an actor with a capital A. He's sort of the reluctant one. He likes to be the clown. He likes to be this. He's offhand. I would watch him. We'd have a lot of Jaffa speak, and I'd watch him try to figure out exactly what the best way to bust that balloon was, what the remark needed to be. And it was written in the script, but often he would create a better line, and they would let him do that. But what I would love with Rick was when they corner him and force him to have an emotional scene. There was you know the episode so well. I mean, his stuff with Amanda, some of it was exquisite. And then there's the episode where he's trapped, he's skewered on a.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. It's season 2. It was it's like a crucifixion.
Yeah,
it's message in a bottle.
He's terrific. And it's almost like you have to corner him, and he'll look, shit. Is there any way out? Is there a joke?
Yeah.
Can I be offhand? Oh, you really want me to go right through?
And then he delivers a remarkable performance.
And then I can, all of a sudden, the focus, that 25 years of knowing it's different. It's not 25 years of just acting, because he's been acting much longer than that. It's 25 years of knowing how to deal with this. It's, you know what it is? It's like a matador in a kind of way, playing with the bull initially and doing all the, or the clowns. He's the clown. He's sort of the, I'm not a big fan of bullfighting in a kind of way, but, he's playing, he's like the rodeo clowns or the bullfighting clowns. And then the matador steps in, and all of a sudden it can get quite serious, Anyway.
That's awesome. I want to pull up some questions from fans before I let you go. I really wanted to thank you for this initial first episode. This was fantastic. And it means a great deal to me that you came in, and pinch hitting for Christopher, and there's a certain symmetry to that. So thank you for being here. I'm pulling up.
I felt the same thing. I thought it was very appropriate for me to come in for Chris.
Absolutely. Well, there's a certain like Braytak would do that, depend. I mean, if the Stargate were revealed to the world and Teal couldn't be there, I will go on national television on your Earth stations.
I will.
So absolutely. Summer, I'm not seeing the questions. So I'm going to have to figure out, let me reopen it here. I'm not seeing them. So for those who have come in to ask questions for Tony, will you be back with us in a few months?
Absolutely, yeah.
I will ask these questions then. So we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that those are copied because this is my issue. This is not theirs. So I will ask their questions. I've copied them, and I will ask the questions of the fans the next time that we have you on. This, sir, was a treat. Absolutely. And the intent of this show is to go through and explore bit by bit the important people who created a piece of work that has provided us so much joy over the years and will continue to provide generations who have yet to encounter the show a great deal of, entertainment, but also it's not just entertainment. You're changing people's hearts and minds with this content. Yeah. It's like Shakespeare. It's like Star Trek, it means something to people. And thank you for being a part of that.
Well, let me say to you that you've done an enormous amount to keep this alive. And I've been very aware of that. And, we've met and done things several times. And I want to thank you for creating this, repository of memories and ideas about a show that meant a lot to all of us. And so thank you. And I can tell just by looking at what's behind you.
That I'm a bit of a fan.
You are equipped for the next invasion.
I am indeed. Jaffa. Absolutely. Tony, this has been fantastic. There's much to discuss, and I look forward to having you back on early 2021. So
thank you all, and to all you out there, keep watching. I hope we get to meet once the dust clears from our current crisis. Okay, be safe.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your time. All right, folks, Mr. Tony Amendola, Master Braytac himself. Thank you so much for joining this episode. This was an abbreviated show, so we're going to go ahead and get ready for Joseph Malazzi here, who's going to be joining us in just a minute. Let me see before. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. So before we go, if you like what you've seen in this episode, I would appreciate if you click the like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help grow the show's audience. But please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. If you plan to watch live, I recommend giving the bell icon a click so you'll be the first to know of any schedule changes, which will probably happen all the time. So bear in mind, clips of this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. The clips are designed for people who don't have time to sit through the whole show. I appreciate everyone who is tuning in and everyone who is going to see the show after it's live. Thank you so much for watching. And you know what? Joseph Malazzi is going to be coming on in just a moment here. So we're going to bring him in, and I'll see you on the other side.